Juneteenth. Happy Juneteenth 2024. Let's do this. You just tuned into the number one urban talk radio show in the land, a better Black America talk radio show. I'm your host, Bushan Glover, where we keep it copacetic, we keep it conscious, we make you think. You have tuned into the place where we seek solutions and resolutions to create a better America. And America will not be a better America until we champion Black America. And today is Juneteenth 2024, and it's Freedom of Death. And if you didn't know, Juneteenth is actually Freedom Independence Day for Black Americans, because if you didn't know, in 1865, some of the migrants, or I would say some of the, it's a whole lot of stories out there. Some say the Buffalo Soldiers, some say people that were migrating from the Confederate South, was going through Galveston, Texas, headed west, and saw a bunch of slaves. And they rode up on those slaves on their horses and said, "Man, what y'all doing still picking cotton?" And one of the slaves turned around and said, "What's you doing on that horse?" So if you just really understand, think about it. The Emancipation Proclamation was signed in 1865, okay? January 1st to be exact, 1865, Abraham Lincoln. And in June 19th of 1865, slavery was still in effect in Texas. And I said June because they harvested, they did all of the work. But then when the migrants came through, headed west to California or anything, and a lot of them did stop in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And we're going to talk about that on another broadcast. But they were still enslaved. And one would think, like, how is this possible? How is this possible? The Emancipation Proclamation was signed over 2 years ago. And how is it that these people in Texas did not get the memo? And then you think to yourself, like, wow, this is probably because, they couldn't read. Reading is fundamental. Knowledge is power. And it was a time where reading was illegal for slaves, because if we could read the the papers or the telegrams or anything like that, then, we would basically educate ourselves and they will lose their good economics. So when we're talking about Juneteenth, this, for me, it is it's an Independence Day for Blacks, and it's the choice for independence is freedom or death. The choice for independence is freedom or death. There's no other option, because you don't have to die a physical death. You could be, a spiritual death. If you look at the Bible, the book of Nod, where when Cain killed his brother Abel, he went to the land of Nod where he found a wife and had a son named Enoch. Who are those people? Those were the people that were far away from God. So they literally was nodding. They were living in their sin. They literally were dead. They were dead man's bones. So what I'm saying is, on this Juneteenth, we got to declare our freedom. And for us to declare our freedom, we literally have to choose freedom, because when we have a choice between these two political parties, the last election between Donald J. Trump and Joseph Robinette Biden, they said, it's the lesser of the two evils. Okay, so if we're going to deal with a duopoly as Black Americans, our choice is freedom or death. And I'm going to say this again. Our choice is freedom or death. Okay, now the lesser of the two evils is freedom. Okay, and death is destruction, and we're seeing the choices that we've made and the choices that was forced upon us by our ancestors, our grandparents and grandmas and mothers, because they pretty much been hoodwinked and bamboozled by the Democratic Party. Because when Abraham Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation in 1863, he was freeing us and giving us freedom from the Democratic Dixiecratic South, which is today's Democratic Party. So how is it possible hundreds of years later, we can actually still be associated with a party as a block vote, as they're pretty much every 4 years, they come to our communities and they start pandering and, start, asking for our vote. But when we look at what what we see, they don't want us to believe what we see. And when we see it, They basically do their magic tricks and show that, black people are in high places. And, these individuals, the first black to do this, the first black woman, black empowerment, women's empowerment. But if you did not know, and if you really think about that from a conscious perspective, they literally killed the black culture. When I say black culture, meaning being proud of who we was, because back in the 60s, they was saying it loud. They was black and they was proud. And I saw a couple of news outlets. Al Sharpton and Brian Donalds had a debate, and Brian Donald brought up Jim Crow. And he said that in the Jim Crow era, that there was more black families than there is today. And Al Sharpton, who is a paid, pundit from MSNBC, he pretty much tried to just clown Brian Donald for saying something. Don't mention Jim Crow. But all he mentioned was back in the Jim Crow days that there were more black families, which is a fact. And if you want to kill and destroy the black race as a culture, then you pretty much bust up the black family. Because when I turn the TV on, I see black men with white men on commercials. I see white women with black women with white men on commercials. I see black men with black men on commercials. It's rare that you see, a nuclear family, a black man with a black wife and a black family, because when you talk about, a duopoly, democracy, freedom or death, they're giving us death because they don't want us to be around, because they know without a shadow of a doubt, if we were to marginalize and come together as a people, our moral perspective will literally change the game. We would literally surpass them so fast, because if you look at all the affirmative action acts, every time they put an affirmative action in, when they started to put affirmative actions in the UC schools, black men and black women started graduating from UCLA, UC Santa Barbara, Cal, in epic proportions, and then they pull it away. Think about it. And when they start talking about just recently, the diversity, equity, and inclusion, we skyrocketed, but what did they do? They snatched it away from us, because we continue to choose death. Because when you choose death, they will basically, groom you, as they would say, to basically make you think that you're in a position of power, but they will put black faces in high places, because anybody that's black that's in a position of power, if they don't own the corporation, if they're not the CEO, if they're not the CFO, if they're not the owner, they're just a worker. So it's pretty much a glorified sharecropper, to basically put it out there. Because remember, when we was coming up, it was male dominant, and male dominant meant white male dominant, and white male dominant, pretty much the opposition of that was black male dominant. You had Johnny Carson at night. You had Arsenio Hall at night. You had Phil Donahue during the day doing talk shows, and you had Montel Williams. Okay, now you got ladies and a gay man. And I think his name Carumba or something. You got a gay man who sleeps with men, who's married to a man who's giving marital advice to blacks. So just think about how insane and asinine that is, because we continue to choose death. And they are basically relying on us to basically just continue to fall for the okie doke. They're relying on us to continue to, just kill ourselves. It's not a physical death. It's a death of culture. It's a death of our freedoms and liberties. It's a death of our high vibration spirit. Because when you're dealing with individuals with a low vibrational spirit, they deal in the negativity. They deal with pain and anger. They deal with all types of issues that will literally hurt individuals with a high vibration, because a person with a high vibration is positive feelings, love, joy, peace, creativity, and they want to steal that, because a low vibration individuals, fear, anger, jealousy, sadness, and you are literally misaligned with who you are. So when you talk about people that are misaligned, it's a crab bucket syndrome. They want to make sure everybody is out of order. This is why, when every 4 years we hear a president running for, law and order, because for whatever reason, the low vibration candidate or the or low vibration frequency, pretty much let law and order get so far out of control because they want to kill everybody. Because when you talk about, love your neighbors, you love yourself. First of all, if you don't love yourself, you cannot love your neighbor. This is why, on Freedom Day, okay, on our Independence Day, June 19th of 2024, we have to choose freedom, because freedom will make you proud. Okay, freedom will make you proud. Freedom will make you proud. So think about proud versus pride. Pride is the number one is the number one deadliest sin in all existence. And proud is proud to be who you are. I had an interesting conversation, and I appreciate you guys tuning in, and I will get to those comments. I see y'all coming in. I'm gonna let a few more come in, but I had a conversation with a man, and this is a true conversation. And if it's not you, it's not you. I'm talking about a specific conversation that I had with a man who claimed to be gay, and then he basically said he was a queer. Okay, and when I was coming up, I didn't know what queers was. People just maneuver through, life and society. And I remember when Boy George, had a song, Come a Chameleon. We wasn't even tripping. We were just living life. But I had a conversation just recently with this male queer because I had an issue with them canceling the Leimert Park Juneteenth celebration, in which the Nation of Islam picked up the mantle, and they're having a Juneteenth celebration, and they're calling it the Black Family Reunion. Okay, so with this guy, he was talking about the pride, and he's we growing in numbers. He said he went to the one in West Hollywood, but this weekend he's going to go to the one in downtown LA. Ricky Martin's performing, and then on the next day they're going to have a block party in Hollywood, a parade and a block party. I'm sitting back like saying, wow. So they canceling Juneteenth, for us, but they're doubling down on the sex, because if you didn't know, in the Civil Rights Act, they put sex before race. And this is why, that's the game that they played. So this particular individual was saying, I don't know why you mad or upset. We're normal like anybody else. And I'm looking at him. We're accepted. We're doing big things. And I'm sitting back saying, wow, they literally are trying to change the guard and put these people in, positions, whatever. And then he said, and then look at me and you. We both African American. And I said, stop right there. I am not an African American. I am down for my race, and my race is Negroid, which is black. And a black man, heterosexual black man, we represent the race. Everybody, even you, as what you would call yourself a queer. Okay, you say African American, meaning that you got played and hoodwinked because you are what they call a race traitor, because you choose to focus on your sexuality and your sexual preference over the race. And he sat there, and I knew he had to come back with something, and then he sat back and said, but look, why are you judging me? I said, listen, brother, I am not judging you by no stretch of the imagination. I'm just telling you that the government, this two-party system, this duopoly, and this democracy that we're dwelling in is pretty much doubling down and investing in sex. Because when we were coming up and learned about the civil rights and civics classes, okay, and Black history classes, it was about race, because Juneteenth was a racial issue, because only people that was documented as slaves in this nation were black people. The transatlantic slave black people. Anytime that I see somebody that calls themselves an Indian, to me, it's a white person who's pretty much got a ponytail and wearing some Indian garments, because I don't know what happened to them. That's their story. They got their reservations. They got their reparations. And because they pretty much were free and was liberated. But we want a new deal. Because when you claim to be independent, that means you don't want to be connected anymore. Just like if we was an athlete and we was under contract for 10 years with Los Angeles Lakers, and now we're not under contract, we might want to just test the free agency market. But anytime the black race want to make a move, you got the Democratic Party, they'll sit back and throw us a few bones, make it seem like we're doing something, and then strategically pick somebody, a black gay man, put him over here and say, okay, hey, look at the black man. And then our mamas and grandparents and all that. Oh, I sure like so and so, man. We got a first black this and a first black that. But mama, that man gay, which is nothing wrong with that. But me as a heterosexual man, we never promoted, the nightlife, pimping, pandering. We never promoted having multiple girlfriends. We never promoted, fornication. We never did none of those things. But we lived a lifestyle and we was able to maneuver through, without any issues. But I'm saying, why are we promoting an agenda that's genocide? Just think about the promotion of the LGBTQ LMNOP society, which promotes, men sleeping with men, meaning that's black men not sleeping with black women. Okay, that means that we're not making babies. And then you double down on that and then think of Planned Parenthood. And then we convince our babies and our daughters to abort their children. That's another genocidal situation, because I believe, on Freedom Day, that we should promote, we should promote abandoning teenage pregnancy. We should promote things like, no children before marriage. We should support, a two-parent household. Make sure you get your college degree before you even think about having a child, because if the relationship does not work out between you and your guy and you and your man, then you will be able to, financially take care of not only yourself, but your child, meaning promoting things like that. But we don't say anything. We'll put Sexy Red and put her out there and, promote all these things that will bring death and destruction, to God's greatest creation. And as individuals, we really got to understand this, because it's freedom or death. And like I said, we're here, we're alive. Freedom is a choice. You got to fight for freedom. Okay, I remember when Public Enemy said we got to fight the powers that be. Fight the power. When I woke up this morning and went on Instagram, I saw Ludacris. He posted, a Freedom Day, Juneteenth. And I hit the sound and he was playing Public Enemy, Fight the Power. What happened to Public Enemy? They don't want them fighting the power. They pretty much invested in gangster rap. Now it's murder and drill music. Now it's a drug culture. You'll take Drake and, I'm popping pills and popping mollies and I'm going to do all of this. So what I'm saying is we really got to pay attention and use today as a marking point to basically get on the right track. Now, today is June 19th, 2024. The number 1 is knowledge and number 9 is born. Because how many months does it take to have a baby? Okay. And the number 1 is knowledge, and that's the first gift that God gives us. So today on the Better Black America TV, Better Black America Talk radio show, where we seek solutions and resolutions to create a better world, because the world would be a better place if blacks got their stuff together, because we got to declare freedom. Just like with the murders and homicide, we have to create some type of G code. And I'm all a part of that to basically stop the murdering and the killing and the pillaging in our own communities. We got to start having conversations about ceasing for peace, putting the guns down. We got to start having campaigns to stop the madness, because everybody is capitalizing off of our demise. The prison industrial complex is a multi-billion-dollar corporation. And a lot of your record labels, if you did not know, own major stocks in prisons. Okay. And in the state of California, they only pay $14,000 to educate a child in the LA Unified School District. But in the California prison system, they're paying $114,000. And if you really think about that, they're investing in prisons. They're investing in what we call slavery. And if you did not know, as a constitutionalist, the 13th Amendment basically reads neither slavery nor involuntary servitude common unless criminalized. And that criminalization clause is the slavery clause. This is why we got to choose freedom. How is it that we're only 6% of the world's population, but 60% of the world's prisoners? Why is it the fact that 6 out of 10 black men somehow, some way find themselves behind bars, whether it's from a county, state, or municipal perspective? Okay, municipal is city, county, and state is federal. Okay, so now just really pay attention to that. And on this Freedom Day, this is our Black Independence Day, and I'm so glad that the Nation of Islam picked up the ball and they're having the Juneteenth celebration. It's not funded by the city. The business owners in Leimert Park have came together, and they're having they calling it the Black Family Reunion. Okay, so Black Independence Day is here. Okay, and Black Independence Day is also known as Juneteenth. So we got to declare our independence because we have not been able to maneuver and to do what we want to do and choose what we want to do. We only have learned to take what's given to us. And when you learn to take what's given to us, that means you will accept being raped. You would accept being abused. You would accept being, tormented. And think about us as a people. How many people said, well, you got to just accept what's given to us, and we only have Biden and Trump on the ballot, so we got to, and I'm going to say that's not true. Okay, if we choose freedom, we got to deny democracy as a whole. And when I say deny democracy as a whole, the two-party system works together. This used to be a democratic republic. Okay, and it's still operating as a banana republic because when you look at Congress, they sit there and argue and debate and literally make us look bad. And just because we got women in power, as congresswomen, men as congressmen, they're not representing the race. They're representing the constituents that they are paid to represent, and they are investing in sex. They are investing in sex because, like I said, Lyndon B. Johnson, when he signed the Civil Rights Acts of 1964, he basically said in his own record, get those nigga leaders, bring them in here. I'm going to give them everything they want and have them voting Democratic for the next 200 years. That's what he said. That's exactly what he said. He came in, he signed, and he gave Dr. King a pen. And then he brought in Margaret Sanger, the eugenist, and pretty much created Planned Parenthood because they're on a call, and it's recorded, it's documented in the archives where Margaret Sanger, the eugenist, and she's called and known as Black Genocide, had a phone call with the sitting president, Lyndon B. Johnson, and pretty much said, Mr. President, the Negroes is having babies 6-2, more so than the whites. And we don't want to. And he said, yeah, I understand. So you gotta put in something for population control and make sure we shut them down. And when he signed those civil rights acts, and that was pretty much to desegregate the South, to Roe versus Wade, you could go to any school you want to, police brutality, all these things was a racial matter. And that was the main issue. But somehow he put sex before race, and they never got to race. And we are addressing that issue today because I never seen in my lifetime any individual or any organization or any elected official, talk about the race, because somehow just because you will go ahead and take, the smartest, the most intelligent people that will do your will, put them in a position and then basically make us think that everything's all right. But that's just to play, an educational situation. The NAACP fell for that. The National Association of Colored People, they fell for that and pretty much indoctrinated themselves as a political system to promote education and to promote the Divine Nines, fraternities and sororities. Okay, and a fraternity and a sororities, those are literally what you would say, what's the term? Secret organizations or secret societies. So they pretty much are not focused on the race as a whole. They're focused on their frat, on their sorors, to pretty much pull themselves up, put themselves in positions of power, go into Washington and become an elected official, and somehow just sit at the table with Massa as a high price sharecropper while we are still sitting around operating as slaves. And this is a fact. So now we as individuals got to learn and understand that, we can't continue to live in the burning house of democracy. We got to deliver ourselves from slavery, and we got to choose independence. Okay, because if you metaphorically just think about living on a plantation, and back in the day, you had Massa, and he was rough and tough, and we was picking cotton and picking fruit and tobacco and doing all these kind of things as slaves. Okay, by force. Okay, if you try to escape, if you look at the movie Roots, they'll whoop you, they'll beat you till you change your name, they'll beat you and cut your foot off so you won't run. Okay, think about that. But now we're living in a time where we are literally choosing to dwell and live on the plantation because we's got his goods here. Think about that. Think about that. There's nobody stopping us from leaving the Democratic Party. There's nobody stopping us from disassociating ourselves with the Republican Party. There's nothing stopping us to independently liberate ourselves and come together as a collective and pretty much go back in history and see where we went wrong. Okay, where the mistake was made. If we pretty much had a project and it was a, operational engine or a rocket, and somehow 60 years later, this engine or this rocket won't even start. So somehow we're going to have to go back, break this thing down to the last compound and say, this is what happened. At the beginning, we didn't add this filter, and this filter would pretty much shoot the gas into the motor, which will actually start the motor. And then now we got to build it back all over again. So let's look at the 64 Civil Rights Acts. They chose sex over race. Why are we celebrating 60 years of pride? And pride is, man-made. Ain't nothing to be pride about. Think about that. 60 years. Why aren't we celebrating 60 years of Black empowerment? Why aren't we celebrating 60 years of Black growth? The Civil Rights Act was signed July 2nd of 1964. This is the 60th year anniversary of the Civil Rights Act, and there's not one Democrat, there's not one Democratic organization, there's not no Dr. Umar or anybody out there that's pretty much talking about what I'm sharing with you right now. Because like I said, what the knowledge that I get, I don't get this from man. I read its information, but I pray. And like I said, this thing is coming from a higher vibration more than the lower vibration. So why are we not celebrating 60 years? Why is there not a White House situation right now celebrating 60 years of civil rights? Because if you were to celebrate 60 years of the Civil Rights Act, all you would see was death and destruction and the in the debacle of the Black race transferred into an ethnicity which is African American, and the promotion of pride, which is all inclusive in sex, and that includes white women, Women's Live organization, that includes gay men, because white men, because they're gay, they're queer, they're transgenders, they're all of that, and just stop right there. Because if you want to be successful in America and want to be accepted, let me play the gay card. Okay, look at Marlon Wayans. Look what he did on Pride Day, taking pictures with Pride because he won another movie role. Okay, you got to play the gay card. Look at Eddie Murphy playing these women and playing all of these characters. And remember, on Norbit, Marlon Wayans had a sex scene with Eddie Murphy, who was in drag, and Eddie Murphy had two characters, which was Norbit and Respucia. So just imagine Marlon Wayans parading around butt naked on set, and they said it took 3 weeks to film that scene, and he's pretty much classifying himself as a heterosexual man. That's some BS right there. And I saw the Instagram post where people just went in on him, on Marlon Wayans, with the, he was celebrating Pride. He had the Pride flag on his post. He had the Pride, and people were trying, basically, the Pride supporters were saying, well, his daughter's a member, nah, he's a member. Just because you got a wife and a family does not mean you're not gay or homosexual. Dwayne Wade is homosexual. Will Smith is homosexual. Think about it. If a man lies with another man, that's a homosexual. And you see how they have friends in high places, because these friends in high places, think about it. They give them power. Will Smith and Martin Lawrence have probably the biggest film in, post COVID. Okay. But look how suspect both of them are, because Martin was willing to play women and drag and Shanae and all of that, put the dress on. Will Smith, the whistle was blown on him by one of his assistants and said that, he was getting murdered by Dwayne Martin. So think about the men of what they had to do to be successful in Hollywood, because this is what Massa did to the slave. Just think about the slave that wanted favor from Massa, the house Negro. That house Negro was in there sleeping with Massa. Let's not get it twisted. That house Negro was in there sleeping with Massa, and Massa gave him a cold deal and basically would send him out and get our information and what we're trying to do and go back in there and tell Massa, tell boss what we's doing. And this is what's going on in this world today. There's no secret to why, P. Diddy is coming down right now, because he, one of the most influential moguls in music history. But now it's saying that, the man has been, practicing homosexuality, human trafficking and everything under the sun. But think about that. And the only reason that he has fallen is because he pretty much identifies still with the black culture. And he was coming up with plans to invest and to do something about the black community. But what did they do? They exposed him. So when you sign a deal with the devil, just when you're ready to change the game, look what happens. Look what happened with TD Jakes. Just being associated with Puffy, is pretty much, a black eye in what he's doing. And the fact that he didn't come out and say the devil is a lie, I've never did anything like that in my life, I wouldn't touch it, it's basically saying, hey, he probably was part of it, especially when he has a gay son, and his daughter got 3-4 kids and different daddies. And, like I said, this thing is a sham. So what I'm saying, when we choose freedom is literally denouncing the devil and choosing God. And on this Juneteenth 2024, this is, like I said, we're going to have to look back in history and look back and say, wow, in 2024, we figured this thing out, because we got a presidential election, man. These two white men are going to have a debate. They're going to mute the mics. And when I say mute the mics, meaning they can't talk over each other. So if, Biden's talking, they're going to mute Trump's mic. If Trump's talking, they're going to mute Biden's mic. OK, and there's not going to be an audience, and they're calling that a debate. That's not a debate. That's marriage counseling. Because if you've been to marriage counseling like I have been before, I took one, but you're forced to sit back and listen and hear things that you don't want to listen to, even if you agree or disagree. But somehow you have a mediator saying you have to listen to them, and blank you and the mediator. Y'all could go ahead and have this, because as a man who believes in God, as a man who has a high moral standard, as a man who's turning up the knot and turning up his frequency to a higher frequency, really have to leave these people where they are, because somehow they got us so comfortable living in the wilderness and accepting their way of life. We always, black people have a problem, with, judgment or condemnation, because a lot of us are, don't want to be hypocrites, because we're living foul lives. So anybody that would defend unrighteousness is living unrighteous. So this is why we got to basically make amends and an atonement with the higher power, repent of our sins. And I'm not talking about just church. I'm talking about getting right with the Most High and start living a better life. This was the motivation for a Better Black America TV. If you look at the mission statement, is to create solutions and resolution to create a better America, which is a better America for all. And America will never be who she's supposed to be to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, unless we get our act together and we champion the race. And when I say champion the race, they're championing sex, because sex is the blockage of race. Because they'll use sex in a black woman to say, I'm a strong black woman. So she choosing her sex. Now she's over there. And then the black man say, oh, I'm gay. OK, you going over there. And then me and my bros come and say, man, listen, we want reparations. You guys have stunned our growth. You guys set, the crime system, the criminal justice system to pretty much, jack up our future. What we talking about? Oh, shut up. There's pride going on. There's a black man on TV. We had a black president and all of that. And come to find out, and like I said, and I hate to say it, but I gotta say it. Barack Obama's gay. He has children, but if you pretty much pay attention and look at the revolution that's not being televised, there's documentation out there, big time. And I had a conversation with 6 people that knew him when he went to the University of Occidental out here in LA before he went to Harvard. So, like I said, if gay is being such a beautiful thing and you have pride, so be proud about being gay and just tell the world. Because I'm proud of being a heterosexual black man, and I don't have to tell nobody because I'm walking in my truth. Because if you're living a lie, you will be willing to do anything to protect that lie, and you'll be willing to do anything to destroy individuals that oppose your lifestyle. Because what I'm saying is we used to have to step and fetch. We used to have to just get along. And I'm sure, when the buck breaking was taking place on the plantations, I'm sure if Big Buck didn't want to get bucked, they tied him ropes and all of that. So the next guy was saying, just take it. Okay, just think about that. But God has put us in a day and time in 2024, and he's challenging us because without struggle, there's no progress. Frederick Douglass says that, and he was a Republican. Harriet Tubman was a Republican. But we are not a part of this democracy system, okay? Because democracy is ruled by the devil. Dead man's bones, pride, okay? Because the flip side of democracy is theocracy, meaning freedom, okay? And on this Juneteenth, happy Juneteenth to you, 2024, Black American Independence Day. This is the first year that we're really going to hunker down and focus and live in our truth and choose independence. Because if you are in a terrible marriage, it's a matter of time you're going to get a divorce. But just imagine if every time you go file for your divorce papers, your husband or your spouse, they start acting right. They play the love card. If you love me, they showering you with gifts, and then you go back and say, you know what, let's go ahead and get back together. And then as soon as you get back together, soon as the divorce process has stopped, they go back to doing what they was doing that motivated and inspired the divorce in the first place. How long are we going to continue to do that socially, economically, and politically? Think about that. How long? So when you talk about independence as blacks, we have to divorce democracy. We have to divorce the Democratic Party. And more importantly, we have to divorce the devil. And like I said, just because we're divorcing the Democratic Party does not mean we're going to vote Republican. It means we're going to choose God. Because the freedom vote this year would be a write-in for Jesus Christ. And that coalition is getting stronger and stronger on a daily basis. I'm getting good feedback that a lot of people are saying, you know what, if I write in Jesus Christ, I will feel good. And I made a choice, and I showed my God and I showed the world that I do not support this two-party system, because one of them have to go. Because as long as we practice democracy in this nation, we're going to descend. We're going to be demoted. Look at the word, because the prefix. And then if you look at the root word, demo, demon, diablo, demonio, or devil, because the Spanish people get it. And if you don't understand, the Latino vote has literally shifted to Trump, but the black vote is still with Joe Biden. But black men, they out there, rallying with Trump, the rappers and all kind of stuff. And like I said, I'm not promoting that, but I'm basically giving you an opportunity to choose freedom, because when you choose freedom, you're literally betting on yourself. You're betting on yourself. Because if you don't choose freedom, you'll be willing to stay on the plantation, be a sharecropper, because you're happy with your rations. They just ration things to you. You're just happy with that. But you have talented individuals out there, okay, that, they can't grow their creativity. They got gifts and natural talents that God has given them. And individuals like that cannot stick around. Because individuals like that are envied, jealous, people are jealous of those individuals. And more importantly, Massa is threatened by those people, because he knows you will spark and motivate an uprising to go up in there and run up in Massa house. You will motivate and spark an uprising of a mass exodus, just like Moses did out of in the book of Exodus. Now, if you look at the book of Exodus, when they got out of the plantation, or they got out of Egypt, they pretty much were cursed for 40 years because they did not trust God. They started bickering. at least we have food. What are we going to eat? We're hungry, and they did not trust God. So biblically, they literally were cursed for 40 years. And if you look at the Civil Rights Acts from 1964 to 1994, that was a 40-year curse. But then Bill Clinton signed and put into law 3 strikes, which basically extended the the slavery clause for another 20 years. Think about that. That's real. That's what happened. So we have to understand what the play is. The game is, chess, not checkers. So how can we sit back and extend it again? We're going on 60 years right now. 40 and 20 is 60. So we already wasted 20 years of our freedom and liberation because the Democratic Party decided to sign the 3 strikes and you out and invested in the criminalization clause in the 13th Amendment, which is, basically unless criminalized, and criminalize us. Just think about that. Cats was going to the county jail, they were so afraid they wouldn't even, they would plead no contest and get a year and a day and get 3, and get out of jail in 3 months because of the overcrowding. But then they would have a felony. Think about that. Bill Clinton signed that into law. And if you did not know, and I know a lot of you educated people do know, who wrote that bill? Which senator wrote the 94 crime bill? And then they talk about, the government is divided. Okay, that vote passed 96, the crime bill, 96-4. Only 4 Republicans voted against the 94 crime bill. Only 4. Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton said that it was, it was bad. She wanted our vote, but somehow, she called us super predators. We was brought to heel and she became the Democratic nominee. And that's not freedom. That's death. Okay. So, and then you look at Joe Biden, that's not freedom. That's death. Because if you look at and understand, Joe Biden wrote that bill. He sold that bill. He said it himself. These are not your ordinary humans. They're super predators. Joe Biden, and I'll quote, said, before they kill me, he was referring to him. Before they kill you, your son, your daughter, they're going to be in jail. Okay. And he wasn't stuttering. Okay. Because you have a lot of black Sambos, not Uncle Toms, a lot of black elected Sambos talking about, he has a speech impediment. That man do not have a speech impediment. That is the rudiments of old age. Everybody has had a family member, a great grandmother, a grandmother who pretty much declined. And this is what it is. And we as individuals got to stop playing this game, because when we support the Democratic Party, we support death. And if you look at the prefix word of the Democratic Party, if you look at the prefix of the word death, D, think about it. Listen. This is Freedom Day. This is Juneteenth 2024. Okay, this is not, our grandparents. This is not, we're educated. We cannot continue to aid and abet our demise anymore. I'm telling you, this is a plea. This is a moment in time. We got to look back in history 10 years from now and say, wow, remember in 2024, on Black American Independence Day on Juneteenth, we decided to flip the script. We decided to denounce democracy and embrace theocracy. We decided to vote against the Democratic Party as a protest vote and write in our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. And that's crazy. We did that because if we do that, then we can have a conversations about reparation. Then we can have a conversation about equality. Then we can have a conversation about eliminating crime, eliminating poverty. Then we can truly have a put the guns down and a cease for peace, because from the top it's coming down that they're starting to tell these youngsters, and they making a move because a lot of people don't want to be on the internet or be seen. They're pretty much putting these guns down. Because how can we grow as a people when we continue to keep the jail system, overcrowded, because we out here pillaging and murdering and doing all of these things? And it's pretty much coming from a death perspective, because if you did not know, these smash and grabs and all of these things that's going on, it's orchestrated by individuals in high places, and they align themselves in the Democratic Party. This is why they put all that money behind Proposition 47. That's cashless bails, meaning anything that's stolen under $1,000 would be let you out of prison. And they let millions of people. And I said, yes, millions of criminals have been let out of jail due to Proposition 47. And that is a Democratic supported bill. You know, the Republicans going to come back on Law and Order. You know, they're going to flip the script. You know, something major is going to happen and they're going to blame it on the Democratic Party, just like, you know, the President Joe Biden tried to secure the border, but somehow it was just a game because he's pretty much protecting the immigrants. So that pretty much was a staged event, and there's nothing's going to change on our southern border. And if you did not know, it's a fact that these criminal acts that's going on here in America, you know, has a lot to do with, you know, foreign individuals in Latin America letting their insane asylums and criminals out, and they coming into America, and now they're doing these organized crime. Because if you didn't know, up north, about 20 people dressed in the same outfit, the same hood, the same tennis shoes, ran up in a jewelry store with hammers and stole jewelry. And, you know, that was an orchestrated event. And I'm sure that there was a safe house where they actually took all the merchandise and just got paid like a job. Now they're waiting on their next call or next maneuverment. And only thing something could happen like this is in a democracy that we live in. So on this Juneteenth 2024, it's freedom. We got to choose freedom over death. OK, freedom over death. And death is anything, and freedom will pretty much be the champion, because the number 4, 2024, is freedom or culture. And culture is death, because culture would pretty much pick one person, a gay guy, and says, look at the black representation. And you have people, oh, we got a black president, we got black CEOs, we have this and that. You know, but they invested in the culture. They will blow him up, because remember, a few years ago, the black billionaires came out. You know, Dr. Dre was one of them. Sean Carter, Jay-Z, Puffy, Kanye. But now Kanye not a billionaire. Puffy not a billionaire. Dr. Dre's quiet and silent. You know, and Jay-Z's quiet and silent. Because the best way to maneuver through and to keep friends in high places is just to shut up and not say anything. But if you look at what's going on, death and destruction. So freedom means everybody, all y'all, get an opportunity to be your best self, to live your best life, to operate in a higher vibration. OK, when you operate in that higher vibration, you got positive feelings, love and joy, peace. And that opens the door for creativity. But we're dealing with individuals with low self-esteem, individuals that don't love themselves. Just like the Bible says, love your neighbors, you love yourself. Nobody that deals with pride loves themselves. And I'll be willing to debate anybody on that, because if you are born a man, and just like the man that I mentioned that I was having this conversation with, he was pretty much standing about 6'4", but he had on some stilettos. He had a beard, he had lashes and a lace front. And I told him the reason why, you know, you're choosing your sex, because that's what you identify with, because we can't have a real conversation of change because you don't love yourself. And he looked at me, he said, I do love myself. And I said, so why are you not a man? Why are you not declared a man? Why are you not proud about born with a penis and nuts? And he sat there and looked at me, and a tear became to fall out of his eye. It could have been the makeup. It could have been anything. But he had a moment, and he sat there and he said, I never looked at it that way. Because if you love yourself, you would not be trying to change into something that you're not. It's a thing called witchcraft. It's a thing called sorcery, all of that. I know a female, man, I would look at them, and then when they put the makeup on, it's like a whole different human being. That female told me, I felt so beautiful. Okay, but you was beautiful without the makeup. You was beautiful. And for a man, we literally want to see how you look. Now, you could put it on, but we want to see how you look without it, because that's the face we're going to be looking at, you know, in the house. Think about that, because we don't want to see you looking, you know, like this beautiful female, you know, with the lace front and all that. Then you take it off. You got a covitis, and then you got to, you know, take the makeup off, and we wake up and get scared like we laying in the bed with our brother. So that's just, us being honest, but do what you do. But just like with that man, how can you have pride and love yourself? You're finding love in what you can do. Okay, I'm not tall, so I'm gonna put some heels on, so I'm gonna be taller. Okay, this is not my complexion, so I'm gonna put some makeup on my face to change my complexion. Okay, I don't like the texture of my hair, or I don't love the texture of my hair, so I'm gonna put on one of these European blonde wig lace fronts, and I'm gonna be. So this is the dangers that we're dealing with. Okay, like I said, they could do anything to build their self-esteem, but if you love who you are and what you are and are proud about it, you could care less about what somebody think of you. This is why you can have a so-called unattractive female, or a obese female, okay, who's at the beach in a two-piece bikini, very conscious of who she is, and proud of her vivacious, fluffy body. That confidence itself, she will attract men that will love her because she is comfortable and she's proud of who she is. But then you get the individuals who don't like their body, they wearing the cover-ups and all of this, and you talking to them and they, covering up and all of that. And this is why that energy is like so way off. So we got to understand that we got to turn the vibration up, because one thing that we got to do is get the devil out of our lives. And at the end of the day, when I talk about freedom or death, the devil's mission is to steal, kill, and destroy. So when I talk about freedom or death, I'm literally talking about God or the devil, because God is freedom and the devil is death, because his mission is to steal, kill, and destroy. So if he could steal your kinetic positive energy, if he could lower your vibration and your frequency, if he can have you fearful and angry and jealous, that's the devil. But when you deal with God in the high vibration, man, you positive feelings, natural dopamine, love, joy, peace, you will find your true self. And when you find your true self, you really will see what's going on, because when you're dealing with that high vibration, you're literally in sync with the universe. And when you're dealing with that low vibration, you're literally stuck. Okay. Now, this presidential election on this Freedom Day, I'm going to give y'all some game. Do y'all remember when they was talking about the lesser of the two evils? And I remember, a female that I love dearly. She's a mentor. She's educated. She's a sorority person. And, and she pleaded with me. She said, look, Brother Sean, this election, it's not about right or wrong or whatever. It's the lesser of the two evils. And I left it there, because she really did not understand that the lesser of the two evils was the Republicans, because the Democratic Party is the party that's invested in double downing in sex, because Barack Obama was the one to first fly the rainbow flag. Joe Biden had a Juneteenth party. I got a picture of a transgender kissing his hand. So that's going to go on our history books. Karen Bass, the Democrat, pretty much raised the pride flag at the city hall for the first time ever. Okay. And like I said, that's the Democratic Party. So that's death to God's people. Think about that. So the lesser of two evils, this election, and this is why I got to give you Jesus as the writing candidate, because this election, the lesser of two evils means killed or murdered. Think about that. Killed or murdered. Lesser of two evils, killed or murdered. Same thing, because Lucifer and Satan is the same thing. Evil is evil. So look at the two parties. Think about it. Let's talk about that real quick. One's a high vibration, one's a low vibration. And they fluctuate back and forth, because right now the Democratic Party is at a very low vibration. The Republicans are at a high vibration. When Barack Obama was the president, it was a very high vibration, but the Republicans was a low vibration. And if you understand mathematics when it comes to multiplying positives and negatives, a positive times a negative is a negative. So no matter what happens, the world's going to suffer, whoever's in office, when it comes to democracy. So, man, now let me go to these comments, man. We've been 53 minutes in. I'm feeling good today. I feel a little free, a little liberated. And I'm hoping some of you are really going to start understanding that it's time to turn up and let go of the devil and embrace God. Start living in a higher frequency and a higher vibration. And I believe we could do this. And I appreciate y'all. Let me see here. So I'm not in America. Oh, okay. So we got people outside the country tuning in and chapping in, and tapping in. So, you didn't say where you were, but like I said, I guess we're international. So you listening to a Better Black America Talk radio show here in the United States in sunny Southern California on Juneteenth, 2024. And then let me see here, KKK. Hey, man, listen, more power to you, brother. Because like I said, I don't know no KKKs or white supremacists and anything like that. Because where I come from, ain't nobody around. And you guys are not a threat to us because we're killing ourselves. So, you could be who you are until we figure it out as a people, because we are getting the G code from the highest of the highest, of the powers when it comes to the race. And they're pretty much lobbying to put the guns down. Let me see here. Let me see. Dixiecratic is crazy. Do you understand who Democratic opposition is? Yes, God, in a nutshell. But here in America, it's a duopoly, so they make it seem like it's the Republican Party. And in the Bible, it talks about the scribes and the Pharisees. The scribes were your liberal writers and journalists and media, and the Pharisees were your religious folks. And the Bible talks about the scribes, pretty much being the catalyst of unrighteousness, in which we see today, because it's investing in sex. And the strongest bloc in the Democratic Party is the immoral party, is the LGBTQ elemental P people who are promoting same sex and transgender, abortion, third term, and all of that madness. And then the Republicans are your hypocritical religious leaders. And that's what the Bible talks about. The hypocritical religious leaders. They look good in their sculptures, but if you crack that sculpture, you're going to see some evilness, because slavery was, they used it as a religion. In the Bible, I'm sure Pharaoh, was a Pharisee and all of that. So with that being said, let me go here. We got Lightly. I don't care. And I'm sure they were making a comment about what I was saying, because if you sat around, listen to the conversation and commented, then that means you're enjoying the content. So I appreciate you. So I just wish I knew what I cared. Like I said, I wish I knew what you didn't care about. Peace and love, KMT. Appreciate you. Let me see here. And what about Herschel Walker then? What does that mean? Okay, Herschel Walker ran as a Republican, meaning if you are black in America and you're conservative and you support the two-party system, then you will be a Republican. Just like, Brian Donalds, Tim Scott. Okay, you can be a Republican. I understand that. Okay, so when you talk about Herschel Walker, I will call Herschel Walker a house Negro. But let me see here. I wouldn't say Herschel Walker would be more like Uncle Tom. Okay, Uncle Tom, because Uncle Tom, he pretty much got in place, in high places. He communicated, he did what he did, but he also loved his people. Now, the house Negro and Sambo, they don't love their people. They love massa more than they loves anything. So I appreciate you. Juneteenth, man, that's what I'm talking about. Freedom Day, Freedom Independence Day. Let me see here. The confusion is, this is by Terry Bell. The confusion is we're not black, and black keeps us out of law because we have not been championed. This is the whole catalyst to the conversation. If we did not have sex before race, you would be black and you was proud, because I remember they was say it loud. I'm black and I'm proud. We was partying. We had soul music. We made music to make love to. Ray Charles was, changing, gospel music into secular music. She give me money. You know what I'm saying? So listen, we have not developed. We're literally like baby boys. John Singleton, rest in peace. That was a hell of a movie that he wrote with the concept of baby boy being in a grown child, because we have not developed, because our democracy or this democratic system invests in race. And you can grow and have Dwayne Wade promoting trans children and, all of these things. But nobody's investing in turning the race into an asset to this great nation. We was an asset as slaves, but now we are a liability in this country as a whole. I know we got it going on. I live in California. I know how high priced things are, and people still buying cars, still buying houses, still partying. But what I'm saying is, as a people, this is why on this Juneteenth today, we're going to make an educated decision that we're going to focus on the race and champion the race and lead into this presidential election and show the world that this is what we're doing. So, man, so that's the confusion. And God is not the author of fear. It's the creator of fear or the author of confusion. So the confusion aspect of it is just understand that if you had a fish that can grow big, but you kept that fish in a small, bowl, it literally will shrink itself just to be comfortable in that bowl. And that's what we did as a people. And we're 20 years removed from the curse. And on this day, we're going to declare our independence. Okay, let me see here. Terry Bell was busy. Now, because we haven't separated, the colonizers, and you're right that they have promoted the, two-party agenda. Hey, like I said, let's like I said, as individuals, let's turn that frequency up. Let's keep that same energy. Each one teach one, share the page, because we're going to continue to have these conversations of growth. Because like I said, the reason why I have this platform is because, what I was looking for, I couldn't find. So the Spirit told me, won't you be that? Okay. Because, the way I was raised in South Central Los Angeles, raised by Black Panthers, raised by, gang members before, the drive-by shooting, with camaraderie, raised in communities where, men will look out for men, the community will look out for you. And to basically get to this age in my life and see that they're literally trying to double down and destroy us, that's not a good thing. Okay, let me see here what we got. Hello, my name is, okay, let me see here. Okay, and that's MK. I got another one. Is he talking questions at this time? Okay, well, I'm not talking questions. I'm pretty much giving information. And I got like so many comments in here. And what's his Cash App? My Cash App is, I should have put it in the caption. But if you go to my, I'm going to put it in there after I post this. But if you go into my last live video, I actually put it in the section, my Cash App. And my Cash App is $ Bushaun Glover. The money sign, Bushaun, last name Glover, Glover. Money sign, Bushaun Glover. That's my Cash App. And like I said, I appreciate that. And let me see here, because like I said, what's the best nation? Donation. So it's time to start raising funds. It's time to start doing this thing. Let me see here. I don't understand. Can you explain? What kind of money can I donate? Where's your super button? Okay, well, we're not there yet. Just keep on tapping in. I'm gonna keep on working hard to get that, because like I said, it's called the super chat. But right now, in terms of the monetization, I got to get a little more viewers, a little more subscribers, and to basically keep on pushing. So I'm gonna go ahead, and when I'm done with the video, I'll put my Cash App, my PayPal, and I do have a website, abetterblackAmerica.com as well. So we're going to continue to do this. So on this Juneteenth 2024, we're going to liberate ourselves, because we got to choose freedom over death. Because if you don't choose freedom, what's the only option? Death. So with that being said, man, it's your man, Bushaun Glover, a Better Black America Talk radio show. Keep tapping in, hit those notifications, hit that subscription, because I'll holler at y'all tomorrow. Peace out.